everyone, I'm your host Pensyfan19 and welcome to the November 2023 Pensyfan Periodical. This is a monthly news series which covers most of the major railroading headlines from around the world, as well as my opinions on them. We have a lot of articles to go over today, so with that in mind, let's get rolling. First off, we have yet another opening-worthy story from what's technically considered a follow-up article, as SMS Rail Lines number 9 has officially been certified by the FRA and will be ready for tourist runs in the coming months. After a lengthy career on the U.S. Army Railway, the Virginia Blue Ridge Railway, and the New Hope in Ivanland, the USRA 060 was purchased by a short line named SMS Rail Lines, where its 14-year restoration has essentially now been completed. I decided to give this particular restoration the spotlight as even though it's intended to run excursion trains on the Woodstown Central Tourist Railroad in Salem, New Jersey, operated by SMS Rail Lines, it's also intended to haul revenue freight runs for the short line, as it was spotted pushing a few freight cars shortly after its restoration, thus joining a handful of steam engines to haul revenue freight in the 21st century. It is because of this fact that led to me reviewing this engine in the very first episode of Remarkable Engines, uploaded almost 4 years ago, and as promised, now that the engine is fully restored and pulling revenue freight, I do plan on making a remastered version of the episode on this engine, once I get in-person footage of number 9 whenever I'm in the area. But overall, I'm glad to see this underrated restoration project finally being completed, and I can't wait to see what interesting tourist and freight operations this switcher will bring to SMS Rail Lines and beyond, as it also leads to a lot of speculation as to what livery this engine will be painted in, as its tender is currently in primer, so it will definitely be interesting to see where exactly it will be running, and for which railroad. Speaking of which, here is some interesting news. Reading 2100 is to be repainted in an identical livery to sister engine 2101 and renumbered to 250 upon restoration for a nationwide excursion. The state of New Hampshire has placed a Flying Yankee train set up for auction starting at $1. The Newburgh and South Shore and Midland Terminal Railroads have converted GP9s to run on batteries, along with US Steel converting an SW900 to also run on batteries, thus continuing the trend of converting existing EMDs to run on clean prime movers. Amtrak has started converting and testing HHP8s as cab cars. Beatles have recently released a completed single named Now and Then. A funicular railway in Switzerland has implemented a rail replacement helicopter service. CD Railways has renamed the Vectron in honor of Bolt the Railway Dog. BLSWTZ has unveiled a hockey sports club train in the Netherlands. The Mayor of Liverpool has requested financial compensation for the poor performance of Merseyrail Class 777s. The Howard Franklin Bridge in Tampa is to have a railway median for some sort of light rail service instead of Brightline, despite being on the proposed Brightline right-of-way. And Siemens has officially named their Velaro Novo American variants the American Pioneer 220, based on a 220 mph top speed. Initially intended for Brightline West, this train set integrates venture coaches between power cars instead of the more traditional Velaro train set coaches, all with a party car included. Seeing how the Alsamaville Liberty has been appearing in a handful of renderings for high-speed service lately, I for one hope that Brightline West and other railroads interested in running high-speed service in the US purchase more American Pioneer 220s, in order to solidify Siemens' place as a true competitor in the high-speed rail market in North America. In regards to follow-up news, the city of Cincinnati has voted to sell the Cincinnati Southern Railway to Norfolk Southern. CPKC is to convert more hydrogen-powered engines as they just completed their AC 4400 hydrogen rebuild. The Danbury Railway Museum has moved the New York Central S&T motors from Albany to the museum. Metro SC70 Max have entered revenue service. Tri-Rail has repainted and placed into service their first CEM cab cars in their new livery. CSX has released their Atlantic Coastline Heritage Unit after several months of silence due to the SC70 Mac E rebuilds, this time with a straight line between the paint schemes instead of the fade. Another CSX GP40 has been graffitied with a fallen flag livery on its nose, this time in a Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac livery. And Metro North has repainted their third P32 into a 40th anniversary livery, this time commemorating the long-awaited New York Central. Very fitting seeing that Metro North still uses its Central's terminus at Grand Central. In other news, SEPTA engineers have authorized a potential strike in the coming future. Bangladesh has commenced their Chattogram to Cox's Bazar service. LNER has ordered CAF Tri-Mode multiple units, while Hitachi has revealed their Tri-Mode MU named the Euro Masaccio. FGO and Renfe have purchased Sadler Flirt EMUs, while Alstom has been selected to construct CP's new EMUs. Lightning McQueen is now playable in Rocket League. Roy Hill has revealed their battery-powered Wabtec Flex Drive before being shipped to Australia. LNWR Class 730s have entered service, along with the RER NG in Paris. The SJ X15P in Sweden and the rebuilt GP38s on SOPOR in Quebec have also entered service. PKP Cargo wrapped an ET-43 to celebrate Polish independence. Essex steam train has acquired Frisco 1352 to be restored, while a rare coffee pot engine named a Yankee from Scotland has been restored in Michigan. Cumbers and Toltec is to acquire a White Pass and Yukon MLW Class DL 535E, while Lavona Avon Lakeville has donated an Alco S2. And NJT has wrapped an AOP 45 in honor of the 100th anniversary of Atlas model trains, thus adding another commemorative unit to NJT's ever-growing fleet of special interest unit, and marking one of a handful of real-life engines to pay tribute to a model train company. Also, happy 60th anniversary to Doctor Who, and happy 100th anniversary to New Orleans streetcars. After all that, it is now time for this month's Meme of the Month. This month's Meme of the Month is literally the guy in the pig. And now, the top story of the November 2023 Pensyfan Periodical is Mexico to mandate passenger service. In a somewhat surprising move from the Mexican government, President Obrador has announced a decree that requires private freight companies to either operate their own passenger services on existing freight lines, or the Mexican army will operate their own trains on these routes. With such a sudden announcement, details on this plan aren't exactly clear, specifically with how frequent trains have to be or what equipment has to be utilized, but so far 7 passenger routes have been announced for these proposed services, with most of them originating in Mexico City and running to destinations such as Nuevo Laredo and Coatzacoalcos. This relatively newfound interest of the Mexican government operating passenger services could be due to the success of FIT between Coatzacoalcos and Tehuantepec, along with their incredibly diverse roster of passenger equipment, as private freight railroads, namely CPKC and Ferromex, have until January 15th to submit their own proposals for passenger services along these routes or elsewhere within the country, with CPKC already stating interest in operating passenger service at least between Mexico City and Querétaro. Also included in the decree was an interesting proposal to have all of these passenger rail services electrified via overhead wires, a task which was done recently in the past with the electrification of some N-to-M lines and subsequent purchase of E60s in the late 1980s, although these plans don't seem to be as specific as proposed passenger service and could be subject to change. Although I'm not entirely sure how specific this plan is, nor do I know how much passenger service will be restored by either the freight railroads or the Mexican government, I'm glad to see that this country is taking such a large interest in passenger rail, especially considering how large Mexico's passenger rail network used to be, as many other nations, especially America, can look to Mexico as an example of placing emphasis on restoring passenger service on existing rail lines, which admittedly isn't as controversial as building a new rail line through a forest like Tren Maya. After seeing the wild variations in rolling stock choice for FIT ranging from SD70Ms to Intercity 125s, the possibilities of services and equipment to be utilized on these new routes are endless, as I hope to see as many of these proposed passenger services become a much-needed reality in these underserved regions of the country with unpredictable rosters, which will make Mexico a well-deserved leader in intercity passenger rail. Thank you everyone for watching this month's episode of the Pensyfan Periodical. There have been a lot of rail news headlines for the month, and it will be very interesting to see what the future has in store for all of these articles. Thank you again for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Have a good day.